Mr. Riebling, will you take your seat? Members of the committee, members of the council, we begin our day with Mr. Richard Riebling, the Director of Finance. Mr. Riebling, if you wish to introduce anyone with you, they don't seem to have the courage to sit with you, but perhaps you want to introduce them in the room.
I'm glad you noticed that, Chairman Stein. We appreciate this. We have sitting up here to my right, of course, is Gene Nolan, Deputy Director, who's been on his 40-something budget with Metro Government, invaluable member of the team. And in the back, we have Jeff Gossage, the purchasing agent. And I believe Talia Lomax O'Neill, another Deputy Director, is ensconced in her room, getting ready for other budget presentations.
Well, as you know, our threshold question is, can you operate within the mayor's proposed budget?
I believe my answer to that question will be yes. I know that comes as a great surprise to many in this room.
Thank you for that response. The floor is open if you wish to make any comments about your office's budget.
Thank you, Chairman Stein and members of the council. I'll be brief. I'll have a few things I would like to say, but as I try to do every year and don't always remember, I like to first thank the dedicated employees of the finance department. We have an extremely competent and dedicated staff that, if you would go back and look over the last several years, we have continued to reduce the number of personnel in the department, and I believe through hard work and dedication and great leadership on the part of Gene and Talia, Jeff, Lanny Holland, Kim McDaniel, have done a great job of getting their staffs to do the needs of the government and protect the financial interests of this government tremendously. Just a few things to talk about in our budget. We are taking some reduction in our budget, which we're comfortable with, as we have every year. I did want to point out that we have asked for the first time in several years, many years perhaps, we have asked for an improvement in the budget. And we have not done that, as I said, for many years, but we are asking for an ability to mid-year hire of a public property officer to better coordinate the public property issues facing the government. Gene Nolan and Kim McDaniel have directed the public property staff now for several years and done an excellent job of overseeing it. But the demands on that office and the complexities of issues facing public property just seem to continue to grow. And we need to get a little higher level personnel working full-time in the public property office. And so we did ask for an improvement, which the mayor allowed us to have the funding for about a half a year. So we would hire someone about mid-year to serve in that capacity. We think it will lead to more efficient resolution of the property issues, and is something we were reluctant because we don't like to ask for improvements, but we did ask for it in this budget year. With that, I suspect that members of the council may have some questions, and I'd be happy to address the finance department budget or other issues that are appropriate for this hearing. And again, we thank you and I'd like to thank the council, Chairman Stein, and his second time as budget chair, and other members of the council for your support and cooperation you've given me over this now is our 7th budget. And obviously we appreciate it and sincerely look forward to completing this one successfully for the taxpayers as we have the others before it. So thank you.
Thank you. You're assuring us that the mayor knows that improvement is in your budget?
Yes. I went directly to the mayor on that. I bypassed the deputy on that.
Councilman Tigard, you're recognized.
Thank you. And Rich, I had that issue about the public property officer circled. Give me an example of some of the detail work that this person would do and some of the challenges that you mentioned.
The Office of Public Property, the Director of Public Property, has been a vacant position now for several years. Gene Nolan has stepped in as the acting head of public property. And Kim McDaniel, who really, it's not her area of expertise, but she has done a remarkable job of coordinating that, kind of managing it along with Gene over the last several years. And we have a staff of 3 in public property, Jim? staff of 3 in public property, and it's gotten to the point because of the complexities that's taken away from Kim McDaniel's and Jean's time to do their day-to-day job. Kim oversees, is an assistant director and oversees all the operations, the bill paying, accounts payable, receivable, the accounting functions of the government. And so we felt that at this time we needed a senior person to come in and sort of be the direct line director of that property, of that office.
So describe exactly what that office does for Metro government.
That property oversees anything related to property related to Metro. That's the disposition of property, getting property ready to dispose of, the acquisition of property, easements, leases. So anything that is property related, that office has to go through that office for approval prior to any kind of disposition of it. Okay.
All right. And then I noticed one of your goals for June 2015 relating to the financial health of Metro being strengthened. The first bullet point is outstanding debt and approved capital spending is balanced with dedicated debt service funding. Tell me exactly, in layman's terms, what that means.
We can afford what we can afford what we have, and we have the money to pay for it.
So that's a goal by 2015?
It's a goal every year.
But it's not a reality now?
It is a reality now.
Okay, so but I guess why is this listed as a goal? If we're already doing that, why is it a goal?
Because it would be a continued goal. We'd never want to deviate from that. Just like keeping a AA bond rating, we never want to deviate from that. Okay. So that's a goal, but it's also it's something you have to work towards. It's not something that's going to come just automatically.
All right, so I can't read anything in there that there's...
No, sir.
Black clouds on the horizon or anything?
There are not black clouds on the horizon.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Claiborne.
Thank you. Rich, I just have two quick questions. I noticed that you are indicating a $112,000 reduction in various programs. What are you getting rid of?
It's not filling some vacancies, and by backfilling a number of positions, we've had some turnover, especially in the purchasing area and some other areas, and we're able to fill positions at a lower salary than those that retired or left for other jobs. That's where most of the savings are coming from.
So it's not necessarily programs, it's personnel then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then on your at a glance sheet, I noticed that you are anticipating or at least projecting a revenue increase of $21,500. Are you raising some of your fees, or where are you getting more money from this year?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that one. Where are you, Councilman?
That's on D15-1, Finance at a Glance, under Revenues and Transfers, Program Revenue.
Oh. I don't know the answer. I'll have to get back to you. I'm sorry, I just don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. It's probably, I don't know, Gene, you know where that's coming from? Tell me out. You know? Yeah, I guess it's probably grant related. I just don't, I'm sorry, I just don't know. I'll find out.
Okay.
Councilwoman Weiner.
Thank you, Chair. Rich, I have one question, and this is just a procedural operations question. On your goals on 15.2, at least 85% of routine internal-external business transactions are conducted electronically. How does that differ from what you're doing now? Are y'all implementing a new program?
No, I think it's just continuing to make more and more transactions electronically. Goal would be obviously to try to get to 100% at some point in time. I'm not sure we'll ever get there, but we've done things like, on pay stubs, we no longer put out paper pay stubs. Everything is electronic. So it's things, wherever we can find ways to do that, we're trying to implement it because it ultimately saves money.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 15.3, you list the tourism tax as one of your business supports and solutions. So is it fair to ask questions about hotel motel taxes under this group? When I look back in the back, I can do that. Thank you. There's a page that shows how much is coming in on hotel motel tax, and then there's a breakdown of how that gets dispensed out. Can you just sort of explain, does all that money that comes in go to one budget to pay off convention center debt, or are there 4 or 5 different places it goes, and
right.
How is that coming out even?
1% of the hotel tax collection goes to the general fund. So that's
Gotcha.
used to support the operations of the general fund. The other 5% of the hotel tax collections are 3 of which are dedicated to convention center debt, and 2 of which are under contract go to the Convention and Visitors Corporation, the CVC, for the promotion of tourism. That's a contract that they compete for and are awarded on a 5-year basis. But so 2% of that goes to them, 3% to debt on the convention center, and 1% to the general fund. By statute, it's laid out that way.
That statute, and that's ongoing for into
It's
the
ongoing as
future.
long as there's debt on the convention center, which is many years into the future.
Gotcha. But at this point, it's covering, what's coming in is covering what we need to
Yeah.
pay.
Yes, ma'am. The council, it's a relatively good story. I mean, it's not a relatively, it's a very good story. All the various sources to fund the convention center project are running in total considerably above projections. And when I say projections, it's really not projections. It's really what the debt service is, what we're going to owe Omni under the agreement with Omni, and what we sort of, the only unknown year to year is the operating losses at the convention center, because that will change from year to year. But based on sort of what we assume those losses to be and the known on the others, we have a surplus that's in the $20 million range. We'll be at least $20 million, if not more, by the end of this fiscal year. And so we think that provides good coverage going forward. The goal is to not spend that money, but to preserve it, because there's going to be a bad year. It's inevitable. The hotel industry, the tourism industry goes through good years and bad years. We're going through a very good year right now. March collections were the highest in history by far. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I want to say it was like $600,000 or $700,000 more than we'd ever collected in a month before, and so those numbers are continuing to go high. And as someone who does wake up thinking about this kind of stuff, I feel pretty good about knowing when we said we didn't think the taxpayers were going to have to be hit for anything on the convention center, that we feel pretty good that we're in a great position, that's for the very foreseeable future, and on out, we're in very good shape.
Thank you.
Councilman Bedney.
Thank you, Mr. Riebling. I had a question about this property. What's the title exactly? Public Property Services. I guess I was hoping that you could give me a job description. What is that this person will do or does? I assume that this is the part where you engage in economic development type projects where land is swapped to how do we manage properties we own to encourage things that are good for the city. I assume that has to do with that, correct?
Well, I think it's actually probably much more mundane than that. I mean, it's really just day to day. Park wants to acquire property for open land space. There's easements and right-of-way acquisitions that have to be done on a very frequently basis, and a lot of that is done by, for example, the water sewer staff do a lot of that, but ultimately public property has to sign off on all that under the charter. So it's really to get to really staff that office back at a level that it needs to be, because it's been, as I said, sort of being run by sort of ad hoc by Gene and Kim, and we're trying to get some help for them.
And I think it's great. I was just wondering how we can. What are the guidelines that they go by if they have to, for example, if they have a historic building or a building that could be likely be historic, if they have to follow certain guidelines to decide how to dispose or sell or transfer. I was also wondering, I've been asking this a lot lately, if we can do certain things to support local nonprofits by, and I know we have to change the rules to do that, but here we have some equity in the city, which if we sell, we may not get as much as the impact it will have as an economic development tool if we partner with some nonprofit to do something about it.
I mean, I think those are, that's in the realm of possibility, but I think it would take some council action to change the guidelines, because now we're sort of restricted by selling to put it out on bid and selling it to the highest bidder based on appraised value.
Well, I just want to
Not opposed
say,
to those things, but I think they need some thought as to how you would structure that, but, for example, we're trying to do that to a certain degree with the old Ben West Library by having MDHA, it's been declared surplus, or I'm not sure if it's past third reading yet or not, but assuming the council declares it surplus, by having MDHA do a proposed development plan, so seeking input, seeking a developer to redo that property, to preserve it, keep the historic level, but do it on a basis that's not just based on price, but based on the overall development itself. And I could see us doing more of that down the road. I think that's a good idea.
yeah, so if you would mind sharing with me, I would like to be able to empower this person to be able to do more for the city.
Well, I think that's, again, as property, concepts change a little bit, I think having someone with more senior experience in real estate will give us that expertise to help us move in that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley.
Is it a policy decision or a technical management position? This position that you're adding? Is it a person that makes policy or a person that implements policy?
I think implements would be more the answer.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Claiborne.
Question that came to mind is you were talking with Council Lady Allen on the convention center. When we started with the convention center, there was a reserve fund looking forward to those lean years that you were talking about. So based on what you're saying, that we're living in good times now, and we're exceeding those collections. Are we putting back into that reserve fund to bring it back up?
Well, it's above 20. It'll be above $20 million by the end of this fiscal year. I'm not sure where it is exactly today, but it'll be in excess of $20 million above just as reserves. So that we meet all our obligations. We have $20 million left over at the end of the day.
Okay, so how low did it go?
We probably got down to around 15.
Okay.
14 or 15. And that was only principally because of the property issue related to Tower.
Right.
But it's been very, we're not allowing expenditures to be spent on that. I mean,
Okay.
it's important to preserve that.
I can't remember what it was supposed to be when we started.
I don't think there was any budgeted number that was ever in any projections. I think when we did the original assumptions around the project, we thought that we would have enough money, I felt very comfortable that we'd have enough money to pay the debt service and the operating costs of the facility. I don't think we ever had a number that we thought we would have at any period of time, but I think now that we have a surplus, then I think the Convention Center Authority is tasked with preserving that to make sure when we have lean years, that it's there. And that's something that, it's a policy decision of the Convention Authority, but obviously I think this council and I'll have some input in that to make sure it stays at a high level.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Tiger.
Will there ever be a time when the Convention Center Reserve Fund reaches a stage that you're comfortable that this is enough to handle it and we should pay off debt early on that building? Or is that even possible?
Everything is possible. I don't know, I don't think it's anytime soon.
Well, does that mean it needs to be 30, 40, 50 million, or does that need to, whatever the realistic figure is? That I'm a big proponent of obviously paying my bills as I go, but if I got extra, put a little extra on the mortgage and pay it down quicker.
Well, it's harder to do when you have a bond structure. There's
Sure.
some limitations on your ability to pay down debt and things of that nature. I think, perhaps they should look at creating a sinking fund where they would have some money set aside in escrow essentially to pay down debt when it is become due and things of that nature. But, I think realistically, it's hard to predict 15, 20 years out because in 10 or 15 or 20 years, the center is going to need a refurbishment. And they're going to need a source of revenue to do that. And I think reserves are a better source than coming back to the city and asking for the money. So, I think all that has to be thought about by the Convention Center Authority as they go forward.
What was the bottom line impact of the Tower lawsuit?
It cost us a lot of money.
Approximately how much?
30 million? It was around 30 million for the overall cost of that property.
Do we still do business with Tower here in town?
I don't know that we've ever done business with Tower, to my knowledge, but.
Up till this came up?
Well, I mean, they own the property, and it's the property that the city determined was the best site for the convention center, and so we tried to acquire it, and we litigated it, and they ultimately got paid a lot of money.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reeving, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Paul, we are ready. What is? Too late now. I just wanted to talk.